Alexandre Pantoja versus Kai Asakura is a really exciting matchup, but honestly, it feels like a rough fight for Kai. I mean, the dude's getting a title shot in his UFC debut, which is wild, but it's not the first time we've seen something like this. Joe Soto got a title shot against TJ Dillashaw on short notice and got destroyed. Dan Henderson also fought Rampage Jackson in his UFC debut to unify the Pride and UFC belts, but he already fought in the UFC years earlier. Now, Kai's situation is kind of similar to Henderson's because he's coming over from Rizin, which is basically run by the same people who ran Pride. The difference is back then the UFC was still building up its talent. Now the flyweight division is stacked, even if it doesn't get the attention it deserves. And look, I get it. The UFC is giving Kai this title shot because they know how big of a star he is in Japan. He's a massive draw, and bringing him in with this kind of hype makes sense from a business perspective. And don't get me wrong, I'd love to see him win the title. It would be amazing for the division and for Kai's career. But honestly, this matchup is a terrible stylistic choice for him, and I don't think it's going to work out. You see, the biggest problem for Kai is the matchup itself. He's an amazing striker, probably one of the best in the division, but he's mostly fought other strikers. You see, in Rizin, he hasn't faced anyone like Pantoja. The grapplers he did beat, like Shuto Watanabe and Ukasaki, aren't even close to Pantoja's level. When you look back at his best wins, guys like Higuchi, Archuleta, and Manel Cap, they're all strikers too. None of them have that kind of grappling pressure or submission skills that Pantoja brings. And then there's Pantoja's chin. The guy is tough as nails. He's never been knocked out. And even Davison Figueiredo, who hits like a truck for a flyweight, could not put him away. Figueiredo knocked him down once, but that's it. For Kai to win, he's gotta land something absolutely perfect, and that's really hard against someone like Pantoja, who doesn't give you many openings. The biggest issue though is grappling. Pantoja is one of the best grapplers in the division. If this fight goes to the ground, it's a wrap. Kai just hasn't fought anyone with this level of wrestling and submission that Pantoja brings. Pantoja can take your back in seconds and finish the fight before you even know what happened. Alexandre Pantoja is the kind of fighter who just bulldozes his opponents. He marches forward, eats big shots like they're nothing, and forces you to deal with his relentless pressure. What makes his style so dangerous is how good he is in scrambles. Nobody in the division can match Pantoja when it comes to creating chaos on the ground, taking your back and locking it in a body triangle. If you end up grappling with him, you're almost guaranteed to be in trouble. It's just what he does best. Kai Asakura is the definition of a stand and bang fighter. He's the type of guy who's always willing to trade shots, and overall I think he's the slightly cleaner striker compared to Pantoja. But with that being said, he doesn't use a lot of head movement or manages distance all that well. He's more willing to take a few shots just to land something big, and for the most part his chin holds up. However, there has been moments where he's been caught clean, like in his fight against Manel Cap. Cap landed a perfect shot right on the chin, and when you get hit that clean, it doesn't matter how tough you are, you're gonna get rocked. And Kai did end up getting finished. Now, I don't think Pantoja is as precise or sharp with his striking as someone like Cap, but at the same time, Pantoja's style of pressure and chaos doesn't give you much room to breathe. Kai's best chance is to stick to his strength, being the cleaner, more technical striker, but against someone as relentless as Pantoja, that's easier said than done. Kai Asakura's grappling is solid, but it hasn't been tested against the kind of elite competition he'll face in Alexandre Pantoja. He showed he can defend takedowns and handle himself on the ground when he's needed, but most of his fights have been against strikers or mid-level grapplers. While he is a well-rounded fighter, his grappling just isn't the focus of his game. Pantoja, on the other hand, is a grappling specialist with world-class Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He has scored multiple submission wins against some of the best flyweights in the UFC, proving he can control and finish fights on the ground. His experience against top-level opponents has sharpened his skills to a level far beyond what Kai has dealt with before. And that's just the main problem. The gap in the grappling experience and skills is a big problem for Kai. Pantoja knows how to dictate the fight with his grappling, and Kai hasn't faced anyone who can pressure and dominate on the ground like Pantoja can. Kai's defensive skills are good, but against someone as relentless and as skilled as Pantoja, there probably won't be enough to keep him out of trouble. If the fight goes to the ground, it's going to be a tough night for Kai. And it's clear that the main advantage for Kai is to bring the fight into his striking. He has the more traditional, polished kickboxing style, which is undeniable. However, he tends to get drawn into the exchanges in the pocket, and if he does that here, he's gonna be in trouble. Pantoja thrives in those situations and will welcome that kind of fight. Kai's best shot is probably a puncher's chance. His best bet would be to time one of those flying knees when Pantoja shoots. I've seen the work in Rizin. Still, I have my doubts. Pantoja has arguably one of the best chins in the flyweight division. Even Figgy couldn't knock him out, and that's saying something. Now, don't get me wrong, Kai is an exciting fighter. If he somehow knocked out Pantoja, he could bring a ton of attention to the flyweight division. His striking is fun to watch, and he's always going for the finish. But realistically, this fight feels like it's way too much, way too soon. If the division was filled with strikers, Kai could really shine, but Pantoja's skill set makes this a nightmare matchup for him. And man, it really sucks because I generally feel like he has the potential to be one of the biggest draws in the US. And what I mean by that, like flyweight wise, you know, not like a Dustin Poirier or something, you know, maybe like a Michael Chandler or something. His striking and power aren't exactly what can make him a star. Honestly, if you ask me, he and Manel Cap are the only two fighters in his weight class who can really make some noise. They're the only ones, if they won the belts, could actually change the division for better. And right now, it's not like people care about the flyweight division, and the same thing could be said about their champion. Nobody really cares about Pantoja. As skilled as he is, he's just boring, you know? He's a great fighter and a good guy. I mean, I like him, but he doesn't bring the attention that the flyweight division desperately needs. So yeah, man, it kind of sucks. Now, unless Kai pulls off something spectacular, this feels like Pantoja's fight to win. Realistically, Pantoja will probably take him down, wear him out, and secure an early submission. It's still gonna be fun to watch, but it's hard not to feel like Kai is being rushed into this fight. I think that's what's ultimately going to cost him. Yes, he's been tested in Rizin, but if you ask me, he should have faced a top 10 ranked fighter in this division first to see how he would stack up. That would have gave us a better idea of his skill level. Maybe down the line we'll see how he adapts, but for now, it feels like the UFC is rushing him to this fight to capitalize on the hype and money. And honestly, I don't see the fight going beyond a couple rounds. I believe Pantoja will submit Kai with a rear naked choke, and after this fight, people might start ranking Pantoja higher than Demetrius Johnson. Think about it. Pantoja has literally cleared out most of the division. Sure, there's still Kai Kara fans, but I think Pantoja will beat him too. But that's pretty much the end of the video. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like always, guys, I'll see you guys on my next one.